Everybody back up. We have a homicide.
It is important to isolate the scene with tape to make sure that nobody enters and contaminates any of the evidence at the scene. You can see here, Officer Gabe is tying the tape around the pole to make sure it is secure. Our investigators must wear booties to prevent leaving footprints, gloves to prevent leaving fingerprints, and a badge for identification. This is important to keep the crime scene pristine.
Everyone needs to enter and exit through this path.
A common path is important to make sure that we can differentiate from anything left behind by investigators from what was already at the scene, so evidence doesn't get mixed-matched.
Can you please say your name?
My name is Miss Jordan Goodson.
All right, Ms. Jordan Goodson, you attest that you are a witness to the crime case file number 0378.
Yeah, I guess I do, yeah.
When did it occur?
It was October 28th. I think it was around 7:50 a.m. I remember because I was craving some coffee.
Do you know who reported it?
I did.
Is that all you can tell me?
Yeah.
Do you know the victim by any chance?
I don't know. Their body smelled really bad, so I didn't go in there to check.
Okay. Can you identify any perpetrator of the crime?
Can't really identify them, but based on the body, I think it happened a long time ago.
Do you know, could you have identify what happened?
Well, I was going to get some coffee from the teacher lounge, and I stepped outside and smelled something really bad. So I went over to the field, I saw the body and the gun, and then I ran away and called for help.
Thank you for your time.
As for our method for collecting evidence, we chose a linear path where two investigators, a photographer and the lead detective, go in lines, zigzagging across the scene where they meet up in the middle. Once they meet up in the middle, they discuss what they found and then they trace over each other's paths to make sure no evidence was left behind.
And it appears to be that some blood of some sort, and it looks like there's flies all over the body.
What I had is a bullet, gun.
We make sure to place markers next to each piece of physical evidence to be able to differentiate in the log which piece of evidence is which. Again, both of our investigators use a linear path to make sure no evidence is left behind. The job of a medical examiner is to examine the corpse and make sure they can figure out the cause of death at the scene. We must thoroughly document all kinds of contusions and bruises or any kind of marks left on the body to determine the cause of death. And for each piece of evidence, it must be measured from 2 immovable landmarks at the scene to be able to reconstruct the crime scene for the sketch and for the courtroom. This will be able to help the investigators determine what exactly happened at the time of the victim's death. And as for collecting evidence, we have to make sure we put the proper evidence in the proper container. As seen here, the bullet can be contained in a Ziploc bag easiest. This prevents any residues or anything evaporating off of the evidence, so it can be further analyzed. And this piece of evidence contains blood, which means it must be packaged very carefully. It has to be put in a breathable container, such as this manila envelope, so it can be able to preserve the DNA without collecting mold or any other residues, because it is biological material. Now, for this hair, it is best contained in this small pill bottle. This will keep it from getting any residue on it and getting contaminated. Now, this gun is a big piece of evidence. In order to keep any fingerprints left behind from getting contaminated, it would be best collected in a manila folder just like this. Now, each piece of evidence must be photographed in at least 4 ways: an overall shot, a mid-range shot, a close-up shot with and without the number for the evidence. This is important because we need all clear views of where this evidence was left behind and what it was closest to. These photos are incredibly important to help reconstruct the crime scene for our investigators to figure out what exactly happened.
So after scanning the scene and taking photographs of your evidence, you're gonna want to make a sketch. Your sketch doesn't have to be pretty, and it only needs to highlight basic things such as the evidence, the body, and features of the scene. So what you want to include is the location of the scene, the case number, your name, and the date and time which this sketch was taken. Things you want to include in your sketch are, you always want to point where north is. You always want to draw an arrow to where north is on the scene. You always are going to include features of the scene such as furniture, windows, doors, and your evidence. You're gonna want to put your evidence, so you must measure your evidence from 2 immovable objects at the scene. So you're gonna draw arrows, and then you're gonna put the actual measurement next to the arrow. The body, you can just do a simple stick figure or an outline of a body. And you're gonna label things like if this is a wall or if this is a fence. You're also gonna label objects. So here there's a south pole and here there's a south box. And after you do this, you're gonna want someone to verify your sketch. And after they verified it, you move on to your official sketch that will be used in court as evidence. Usually nowadays, these sketches are done by computers. They're generated by computers. But for the sake of this training video, I'll explain it the old way. So basically, you're gonna get graph paper and you're gonna every single box is going to be a unit. Whatever unit you use to measure, that's what one box will equal. And of course, if you scale it, your explanation will fit on the graph paper. If you want measurements that actually for example, also, on both sketches, your evidence has to correlate with the evidence number or evidence letter used in the actual crime scene. And for this sketch, you want to we recommend using and after you draw the on your rough sketch, such as
And for the disposition of the body, it needs to be taken to the medical examiner's office in order to be examined, given an autopsy, and then taken to the funeral home for the family of the victims to take care of the body.